Hello, everybody, and welcome to week number 3. This week, we're going to talk about something that we all know a little bit about, social media, and how that pertains to stakeholder engagement. Of course, there's been lots in the news about social media and not just the positive effects, but the other edge of that sword as well, especially with our neighbors south of the border recently. So we kind of keep that in mind within the context of week number 3 and how school leaders, or any leaders really, can leverage stakeholder engagement, improve it through the use of social media. So the learning outcomes for this week: develop and understand how social media can be a bridge to reach stakeholders. And the second learning objective or outcome: consider how social media provides organizations opportunities for social listening. So not just putting content out there, but also listening to our stakeholders and giving them a voice through social media. In the unit notes, just a couple things I highlighted. Of course, using social media is much more than simply creating accounts and adding content. It can be leveraged to evoke positive emotion with stakeholders. It empowers stakeholders to share their views, which can develop a strengthened sense of connection between stakeholders and the organization. Excuse me. Should not be limited to engagement with external stakeholders. In fact, it can also be with internal stakeholders, excuse me, like staff. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Staff or students, I guess, if you're in a school, I would consider internal stakeholders. The readings for this week: Yar may have mispronounced that a bit. Ayal wrote an article that we're going to look at this week. They talk about the benefits of social media tools, how organizations can transform their structure, processes, and culture in such a way that they'll create more of a horizontal structure with a culture of trust through social media. Of course, they tell us social media makes it difficult to control the dissemination of information. We know that. And external stakeholders of organizations are free to comment upon corporate messages negatively as well as positively. And that's a little bit of the double-edged sword of social media when we use it as a tool to engage our stakeholders. The article by Yao Ayal, again, my apologies if I mispronounced. They talk about a specific crisis management situation, but they also talk about how social media can be used for things like crisis communication, social listening with organizations. Of course, as we already know, they tell us digitized media platforms today are highly influential in shaping public perceptions. We know that to be true. And consider constructing a social media engagement strategy aimed at developing trust and interacting with your stakeholders. And of course, we had chapter 1 from our course text in for week 3. Some of the key points that I pulled out from that: school leaders and teachers can easily communicate in real time with all stakeholders through social media. It says in chapter 1, the best school leaders and teachers utilize an array of educational technology to ensure they're engaging all stakeholders through a variety of media. And many, if not all, expect school leaders and teachers to be well versed in the most current and effective educational technology. So in other words, it's sort of an expectation now that we use social media as part of stakeholder engagement. Of course, we have 2 DQs this week. The first one says one key to effective social media use is leveraging it to produce positive emotion with external stakeholders. This is more likely to happen when social media is more than just a school or any organization producing content. What's a strategy that can be employed to facilitate two-way communication with external stakeholders through social media? So again, not just putting content out there and saying here it is, but finding ways through social medias for external stakeholders to engage with the organization. That's what I want you to think about. Maybe you have some specific examples from your own practice. If you don't, you may want to just take a look on the internet and see what's out there as possible strategies. And I think our course readings line up well with that. So again, try to mix your theory and practice on that one. The second DQ: social media does not have to be limited to external stakeholders. It can also be a strategy to provide voice to internal stakeholders in an organization. So for example, in a school, I would say the internal stakeholders would be staff and students, might be two groups that are internal stakeholders. What might the benefits and complications of internal social media engagement be? So think about in your organization, who are the internal stakeholders and how can social media be part of that two-way communication? Of course, social media again is a topic we all experience on a daily basis. So I'm really interested this week in the DQs and how we figure out how to use social media as a tool to improve stakeholder engagement. Just a reminder that my notes on the three articles are in the course news and bulletins. In addition, you'll receive your feedback from week 2. Take a look from that, or take a look at that, if you will. And just a reminder that Tuesday night, this coming Tuesday, which is January the 19th, we're going to have an optional synchronous meeting about the week 4 assignment. So if you can make it, great. If you can't, we'll tape the audio and I'll put the document I'm going to share about that up afterwards. So maybe I'll see you live this week as well. Have a great week 3. I'll see you in the DQs and enjoy our discussions on social media. Thanks, folks.